Life Management Science Labs would like to acknowledge that we live and produce this podcast on the traditional lands of the Wurundjeri people. We'd also like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands of our listeners and our international colleagues. We'd like to pay our respects to the elders past, present, and emerging. Hey everyone, and welcome to All Together, the Family Science Insights podcast, produced by LMSL, the Life Management Science Labs. We are champions of life management science, providing structured insights informed by science and inspired by practice on key aspects of conscious living. Each week, we bring you scientific and practical insights on each element with the expert knowledge of professionals in the field. I'm your host, Dina Sargeant. Now, let's get started. Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode. Now, family rituals are a special kind of tradition that can strengthen family bonds and create a sense of shared history and identity. These rituals can take form in many places, such as holiday celebrations, daily routines, and may be passed down through generations or created anew by each family. They can involve anything from sharing a special meal to performing a special activity together, such as a game or outdoor adventure. So today, to talk about some of his family rituals is our very own assistant editor, who also has a background as a childcare educator. Please welcome Aidyn Macfarlane. How are you going today, Aidyn?
I'm doing great, Dina. Great to see you.
No, it's so good to have you on. Actually, every time we have an episode together, there is always the talk behind the camera of how his childhood experiences and also a lot of the background in childcare that he used to have as well, and a lot of his past family shared experiences that he's went through. So it's amazing to actually have you on the show to talk about it.
Thank you, Dina. I'm a megalomaniac, as you know, so I love talking about myself. It's fantastic to be here.
That's good. It's very narcissistic of you.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
So now, as you know, we're going to play a little game to get us started.
Mm-hmm. What game is that, Dina?
That is a little icebreaker we like to call Get to Know Aidyn Macfarlane.
It's called Have You Met?
Yes, I know, but I change it.
I like it. Okay. Yeah, all right, let's play.
So the first thing that comes to your mind, just to go ahead and say it whenever I say these different things. Mm-hmm. Okay. So the first one is a favorite book of yours.
A favorite book of mine. I have a handful. I don't read. I struggle at reading. No, it's not that I don't read. I generally listen to audiobooks because reading is a slog for me. So some audiobooks I like. Dune by Frank Herbert. That's a good one. They just made the movie with Timothée Chalamet. How do you pronounce his name? Timothée. And they're making a second one soon. So I've got to read the second one. Listen to the second one. I like The Hero with 1,000 Faces by Joseph S. Campbell. R. Campbell. There's a letter there.
Okay.
That's a good one. That illustrates myths throughout history that have evolved throughout different cultures and highlights similarities between totally independent myths that have evolved over time. They're cool. And I like comic books. I love the manga Berserk. Berserk is awesome. It's horribly gruesome and really tragic, but the main character is just a pillar of nobility and strength. He's just the best, just tough. And I love his philosophy when it comes to living through struggle. It's just like, well, if life's going to be tough, I'm going to be tougher. When the going gets tough, the tough gets good. You know that song?
Yeah.
That's exactly what that's what the song is based on.
Oh, wow. That's actually pretty interesting.
It's not.
No. Okay, so moving on.
Yeah.
What about your favorite movie?
Favorite movie?
Yes.
I love to tell people my favorite movie is Blade Runner because it sounds like a good pick.
Okay.
You know? I do.
What's your really favorite movie?
What's my real favorite? Okay, look, again, we have a few picks here. So I love the movie Blade Runner. It's really fun. It's like a neo-noir in space, like a sci-fi thriller. It oozes sex appeal. and I think it's really fun, and the soundtrack is great. So Blade Runner 1 is really good. I like the movie Bronson with Tom Hardy. It's based off a true story. It's a biopic, but it's like really arty and like over the top.
Okay.
So it kind of outlines the experiences of a man called Michael Peterson, who has been labelled as Britain's most violent criminal. He was so deranged that he once was pardoned from jail. The Queen pardoned him because it was costing the government too much money, and he only lasted out of prison for like 30 days and then was sent straight back in. Wow. He cost like the British government like $2 billion or something like that. That might be a ridiculously high number, but I'm pretty sure it's like $2 billion.
Wow.
Yeah. He
just to be in there.
Yeah, he incited a riot, multiple riots. So one, he managed to break out onto the roof.
Yeah.
But he was also an artist. Like he made some really interesting, bizarre artwork. And yeah, the movie Bronson really outlines his life in a really fun and interesting way. So Bronson's a good one. Being a nerd, my comfort movie is the movie Constantine, which is like starring Keanu Reeves. It's like another comic book adaptation.
Yeah.
And it's just a fun, supernatural romp about one man exorcising demons. So yeah, those are my 3 picks.
That's a pretty similar categories in terms of the likes of films, the way that the characters are sort of built. Yeah.
Yeah, well, in a sense, yeah. Some of them are a bit more outrageous, but yeah, they're all broody.
Ecological.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's for sure.
How about your favorite podcast?
My favorite podcast has got to be the LMSL range.
Oh God.
Oh my goodness. I love the Family Science podcast with you, Dina. It's just fantastic.
Oh, yay.
Yeah. Apart from all the stuff that we do here at LMSL, check out all our other podcasts. We have 10 in total.
Yes, yeah, go and check them out, please.
I like the podcast, Hermetics podcast. It's called the Hermetics podcast, and that's HERMIX podcast, which is about fringe philosophy. And I think the host is named Thomas. Thomas outlines a bunch of different philosophies all around the world on a variety of different topics, ranging from like esoteric and occult stuff to political philosophies. You know, I rarely absorb any of it, but he does it really well. It's a really interesting podcast. So check out Hermetics.
Yeah, no, that sounds very interesting in terms of like what it discusses.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. How about a famous role model of yours?
Famous role model. Oh my goodness. Famous role model. Give me a second here, Dina.
It's okay.
My famous role model. I think it's the actor Kyle MacLachlan. He's in Twin Peaks. Oh,
okay.
I couldn't label this is not a movie, but Twin Peaks is like favorite TV show. Like that show's great. Kyle MacLachlan is the star in Twin Peaks, and he is just a bundle of joy. He radiates positivity, and he's really good at acting. David Lynch once described him as an innocent. A really weird way of putting somebody, but he's just so sweet, and he just you know, in this day and age, so many celebrities are just kind of messed up, and you can't, you know, they're always being exposed for doing something outrageous.
Yep.
Kyle MacLachlan is just running a wine business. He's just a little bundle of joy. Okay, it wouldn't hurt a fly. That's what. Yeah. So Kyle MacLachlan is my famous role model.
I can see you looking up to him.
He's a sweetheart. He's awesome.
Now, how about a favorite course that you've completed?
Look, I've only completed like 3 courses in my life, so I'm not the foremost expert on courses to go through. But one that's had a really profound impact on my life, especially recently, was the certificate for screen and media at Swinburne University. Shout out Amel Tresnick. He is cut. Let me repeat my answer.
Okay.
Oh, of course. A course I haven't completed that many courses in my days. So I'm not an expert on this topic, but one that's had a really profound impact on my life, especially recently, was the certificate for in screen and media at Swinburne University. My coordinator, Amel Tresnick, shout out Amel, he is absolutely wonderful. He perfectly illustrates the type of person a documentarian and a filmmaker should be. Considerate, kind, heartfelt, sensitive, he's wonderful. He's a award-winning documentarian. He just won some awards for his documentary Giving Back. It was absolutely wonderful. It taught me a lot about how to structure stories, how to think about narrative, and how to try put it all together into something good.
So, that sounds really interesting. He sounds like someone you also look up to.
He's cool, man. He's cool, yeah.
And it sounds really interesting. I'm actually going to look him up. I really will look him up.
Thank you, Dina. Please do.
So now we're going to start talking a bit more about the topic that you're here today. We're just talking about some of your family rituals and traditions that sort of take place. First off, what is your definition of family?
My definition of family, I suppose that one's definition of family can vary greatly from person to person, as we know on the Family Science podcast. So it's really important to make the distinction here about what you mean by family. So, your immediate family is one distinction you can make. Those people around you related biologically, adopted family, your mother, your father, your brother, your sister, spouse, children. We could all, and we could go further than that. We could talk about your found family. Those are your friends. Those are your spiritual family, your godmother, godfather, etc. It's not easy trying to clearly define what a family is. So I think family is what you make of it. That's pretty cliche to say, but really, I think family is a label that you assign to people that have significance to you, that are important to you. And I think that's totally subjective. And that's up to the individual to decide who's part of their family, Yeah,
no, that's true.
Yeah.
And I think you've heard so many different definitions about when we're on the show. You're there behind the scenes and you're there listening to a lot of the guests say very similar ideas to what you're saying as well, just sort of reinforcing that. It can be anyone that you decide that you have a connection with.
Yeah.
That you can decide to have a family, a core family. And I think you did mention when we were talking about it a little back earlier as well, the whole definition of family and friends is a family.
Yeah, family.
We were joking about that earlier.
Exactly.
And I think that's a very true definition.
Yeah, you got to think about who's part of your family. I know family sounds like a silly word, but all words are silly if you say them enough,
Exactly.
Yeah, so
it holds so much meaning as well.
Exactly.
The friends, family.
That's all words are really, just labels that just sounds that we assign value and meanings to.
Exactly.
So family.
Yeah, exactly, family, yeah.
Exactly.
We're doing trademark on that now.
Yeah, do not take it. Do not use the term family.
Do not use it.
Unless you're paying us 25 cents per word.
Unless you tag us in that everywhere. Yeah. So talking about some of your family rituals, what are some that you remember from your childhood that you used to do with your family constantly?
Well, a great variety of things. So I come from a multicultural background. My mum's Buddhist, my dad's an atheist. They sent me to 2 Catholic schools. So I feel like I can draw from quite a few experiences here when it comes to this topic. On my father's side of the family, despite being compromised of atheists, we celebrated Christmas and Easter like most modern families. You know, we get together every year and we do a KK, and we, you know, take time out of our months to think about what the other person would like. We're assigned a family member to pick for, and, you know, we go behind each other's backs and sneak around. And
yeah. For Americans, it's Secret Santa.
Secret Santa,
yes. Yeah. For those who don't know what that was.
Yeah. That is Kris Kringle here, okay? So don't forget it.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and for Easter, we go camping each year. So we sit around the campfire and we bake, what is it? So each year we celebrate Easter as well, and we sit around the campfire and we, you know, roast marshmallows and sing campfire songs and make fun of each other. Yeah. So,
make fun of each other is really interesting. Just go around in circles, take turns.
Oh, that's a strongly held ritual that we practice. Yeah. But yeah, you know, we set a time throughout the year to spend time with each other and see each other. So yeah. On my mother's side of the family, it's a little bit more structured, in my opinion. My mum, as I said, is a Buddhist. So when we were growing up, it was important for us to participate in religious rites. So I'd like to make it clear first that I don't want to make a value judgment on which one is more valuable and, you know, which one should be more important, because it's not for me to say. That's up to the individual. Personally, I don't put one as more meritorious than the other. But for me, when growing up, my mum wanted me to participate in ritual ordinations. So being a Theravada Buddhist, I think I pronounced it right. It's important for young men when they're growing up to ordain as monks, or as novice monks called nen. I think that's correct too. And to spend some time in a monastery practicing meditation, chanting, mantras, and, you know, other Buddhist practices. Keeping, like, there's like 41 tenets of Buddhism that a monk needs to hold. I think for a novice monk, they have to have like 20. Okay. So, yeah, there were a few occasions in my life where I had to ordain as a monk, you know, at the request of my mother. And I feel like in a different way that was valuable to me, that I gained something different, although it wasn't really a family experience. It was, it taught me a lot about, it instilled a lot of values and character traits in me that I still hold as important today. Yeah.
No, I definitely think, especially when it comes to that, you're doing it for your mom, that definitely holds some value to it as well, because you're doing it not really because it's you, but because she asked you to, and it's part of, and you really understand both perspectives of what family is.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, it was important to her. Yeah. So I suppose that's all rituals are at the end of the day. They're practices and behaviors that we repeat throughout time and pass down because we assign value to them and significance.
Exactly.
So, you know, to her, it was important that we understood her background, her cultural and religious background. And I think because we were asked to do these things, it did help instill, I suppose, virtue. I don't know any other way to describe it in us. So, yeah.
No, yeah. I think especially that, like, when you're talking about what family rituals and traditions are, it really is things that you handed down and that you're taught that it's important. Whether you understand it or not, you're taught that it's important. And you do it because it's important to family and to your family, even extended family that sort of takes part in it. they all know that it's important. So they all hold some value to it and hold some priority to do it year after year, or how often they do it, because they know that it means something. So I think, like, especially, I mean, we talk about family a lot, and we talk about compromise when it comes to family. Like, you're always doing something for the other person, whether it's going to Christmas, or whether it's going camping, or whether it's practicing to be a monk because that's what a tradition sort of goes upon. You're doing it because it means something to older generation. It means something to the generation before you. And that's pretty much all you're doing, is upkeeping tradition and ritual that get handed down to you.
Values throughout time.
Exactly.
That's what helped our ancestors get by, and they think it's important enough for us to know. So yeah.
No, I definitely agree. So how do these rituals help to strengthen the bond between you and other family members?
I think it helps in a few ways. One is through understanding. I think having shared experiences with your family and loved ones is important, because it helps you, by practicing rituals or reenacting certain behaviors, you're setting aside time to say, okay, this is what we do as a family. This is part of our cultural identity. This is what's important to us as a family.
Yeah.
So having shared experiences with people around you that are like-minded, maybe that share many of the same beliefs, share much of the same DNA as you do. I feel that's valuable to have, to be surrounded by others that you feel like can understand you, doing things that you all want to be doing, you know? Yeah.
No, that makes a lot of sense. Are there any family rituals or traditions that hold a special significance or meaning to you personally?
My father used to organize like weekly movie nights, and that was really important to me, because my parents were quite busy when I was growing up. So for him to set aside time where we all sat down at the TV together and watched a movie, that was really, really important to me. And I feel like that's shaped me in more ways than maybe he even realizes today. It's instilled a love for movies and for story and narrative. So he also used to tell us bedtime stories when he'd get home, but he would make them up, and they were always ridiculous. It was always like he would grab a bear and he'd be like, oh, this bear's name's Ronaldo, and Ronaldo has to go down to the shops and pick up cookies, but he doesn't have his scooter today, so he's got to do something. What are we going to do? And he would just make up, totally random stories. And I would love to sit there and pick them apart with him, but I feel like those were very valuable moments that we shared as well. So the story times, movie nights, shared dinners. My mum, particularly, she was always working too. She owned a restaurant, so dinner time was generally off the table when we would, have it. But when we had weekends free and we were all spending time with one another, she would always cook. She still cooks for us all the time. And that's really valuable. I think shared meals is a really easy way of spending time with your significant others and loved ones. That was something very important to us, like it is probably to many families. Yeah.
No, that sounds a lot of fun, especially the storytelling. That sort of reminded me, your background in childcare, is that sort of helped shape that, do you think, in sort of a way?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I think stories are really, this is off topic, but I think stories are really useful tools to use, especially with children, to communicate deep morals and difficult topics in digestible and fun ways. Like, this kid's snatching from me. What are we going to do? Well, I know a kid named Ronaldo. Back to Ronaldo. And he would snatch, but he would lose all his friends each time he would snatch, and all the kids wouldn't want to play with him. So Ronaldo decided that one day he was going to start sharing, and then all his friends started to return. And so in childcare, that's a really invaluable tool to have, especially storytelling for sure.
No, it sounds very, I definitely saw the connection the minute you said it, and I'm like, okay, I can imagine you being a storyteller and sort of getting that from your dad in terms of the way that you tell stories. I mean, the way that you tell stories when behind the scenes, when we're off camera and stuff, is still very like vivid. You can imagine every single thing that happens. So
thank you, Dina. I rehearse for hours in the mirror.
You practice every morning.
Yeah, every morning before I come in. Yeah.
So speaking of that, are there any family rituals that you started doing as a habit that was influenced by your family?
Not by my immediate family per se. I still meditate. I still, I still set some time aside to practice meditation. I wouldn't call myself a Buddhist per se, but I do. There's a whole litany of literature and studies out there that show the positive effects of meditation. So check out the Personal Science and Personal Resilience podcasts for more information on that. Yes. Check them out. So I still meditate. Some practices I've started now is generally for birthdays. For like my birthday or my partner's birthday, we'll cook waffles in the morning. Okay. She started doing that 1 year because we watched like Shrek the night before my birthday. I think, and that's just something we do now. So we'll have waffles. And that's a nice ritual to do. That's nice. It's just keeping up, like, I suppose it's they say it's the thought that counts, right? So like keeping up that thought process over the years and remembering significant events and then ritualizing them. I think that's important. So I think if you were trying to inject more stability, or if you wanted your relationships with the loved ones around you to be more intimate, think about those experiences that you've shared together throughout your lives, and then try ritualizing them. Try make them significant to you and practice them. So
kind of make it an anniversary of this and this every single year.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's why people have rituals in the first place. We already mentioned this. It's because they assigned value to something that they've done over the years. So
exactly. I think with birthdays for me was a big one because growing up, no matter what day it is, day of the week our birthdays are, we'd always celebrate at midnight, right when it turned your birthday day. We were staying up. We had the cake ready. We'd cut the cake. We'd have a huge party. I think there was one moment where all of us, we surprised my mom, did a surprise birthday at midnight. All her friends came over, all her family came over directly at midnight. She was not expecting it. She was about ready to go to bed. She was in her PJs, not dressed up at all. All of us were dressed up, but she wasn't.
Oh, that's sweet.
That was a tradition that we did. And now for every year, each of us celebrate our birthdays at midnight. And that's something that we don't forget.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you just reminded me that's something my partner and I do. We celebrate at midnight for a little bit. We want to save birthday for the day, but we'll have a birthday eve. Where we always get takeaway, and then we'll celebrate birthday week, whereas the week leading up to your birthday,
I love that.
You've got to, you start celebrating by doing little things, and that's just one way that we try inject a bit more significance into our day-to-day lives. I think if the viewers at home wanted to keep up with those practices and to have similar experiences, take time out in your day and think about what is special to me and my loved ones.
Yeah.
And how can I make that a common occurrence? Relatively common. You don't want to overdo it.
No, exactly.
Don't want to overdo it. Too many birthdays is not fun.
No.
Got a birthday week.
There are people I know that celebrate birthday month. Their whole month. The
whole month.
Until the day of their birthday, then it's back to normal.
Yeah.
But my friend, her birthday is like the 28th. And she celebrates all leading up to the 28th.
Oh,
and I'm just like,
goodness.
I can't do that. I don't have enough money to do that. Yeah. I can't afford to keep celebrating everything. So, in your opinion, can a ritual remain the same even as the family changes? Or do rituals necessarily evolve with the family?
I think rituals like tradition have to change over time. Culture is something that needs to stay fluid and that needs to adapt with the times and with the values of the time. Now, there are probably some constants that could exist throughout time that don't necessarily have to change too much, like Christmas, for example. People love Christmas. They love the idea that there's a season of gift giving where a magical man comes out the sky and he drops down the chimney, which reminds me, parents at home, if you're listening now, please block your children's ears. I have a very special announcement from the big man Santa himself, and he has told me that, look, I don't make the rules here, guys, that if you are listening now, kids, and you do hear this announcement, it's immediate naughty list. Immediate. So I'm going to give you 3 seconds. 3, 2, 1. Okay, so, each year we tell our families and children that a magical man comes out the sky and delivers them presents. And that this person is watching them the entire year and taking track of whether or not they're doing good deeds. And, some might say it's wrong for you to lie to your children about anything. But nonetheless, we still keep this tradition up year by year. And I think that's because we find it. Let me rephrase that. I think that's because we find it valuable to let our children believe that there's somebody that's watching out over them and that's thinking of them and that's planning things around them, and that we ought to be the same in order to be good, that we've got to follow along and try be the same. So although eventually we find out Santa's not real or Easter Bunny or Tooth Fairy or whatever, they're not real, I don't necessarily feel like the magic is lost because we then realize that over the years our parents were the ones that were thinking about us. When my dad told us that Santa wasn't real, he called my brother and I into the bedroom and he was like, Aidyn, Andrew, I have something very important to tell you. And I was like, yes, Daddy. And he said, I'm Santa Claus. And I was like, Santa's not real, is he? And he's like, yes, Santa's not real. So, and then I asked, oh, well, does that mean we still get presents?
As a kid would.
Like, yes, probably not as many, but yes, you do. Yeah. And I was like, well, that's fine then. But, although the magic, although the myth was broken, the magic wasn't necessarily lost. I realized then that over the years it was my parents that were thinking about me, and that they were doing this for me, and that inspired a different sense of wonder. Oh well, this is what it's all about. We tell these myths to each other in order to inject magic into our lives. So yeah, I think that's it's important to have these stories and pass them down because So parents, you can bring them back now, bring them back into the show.
Also, star quality performance just then.
Yeah, well, look, honestly, Santa would have wanted it this way.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think it means that the present is going to be better this year.
Yeah, they're getting good.
They're getting really good, but yeah.
Okay, also, are you hired for birthdays and things like that?
Birthdays? Depends. Do I get a present as well?
You can get money.
Yeah, money? All right, that's the best present of all.
Okay, so we're going to move on to the practice and habit part.
Okay.
Which is the one that you were most excited for.
Oh, you know I am.
So, what is a practice that you do to involve yourself in some of the family rituals that sort of bring together your family members?
Well, you got to show up. You just got to be engaged, really. You just got to think about it. Like, try participate, ask questions about what's going on, how you can help. Like, we celebrate Easter each year, and we all have to chip in to try and figure out where we're hosting the campsite. We camp each year. Where we have the campsite, where we set up our tents, who's doing the dishes what nights, who's cooking what nights. We put all these practices in place in order to make sure that the whole thing goes smoothly and that everybody's enjoying themselves. So one way I'm trying to, at least now, emphasis on trying, to stay engaged and to be of help is by asking what needs to be done, chipping in with the chores, making sure that the tasks aren't all lumped on one person. So I'll generally go around and I'll rake out the campsite and the paths. So my sweet grandma doesn't have to stumble or fall over a twig and branch.
Yep. Ruin that tradition.
Exactly. Ruin it. Would absolutely ruin it. She's already got one hip replacement.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you don't need another one.
No, we need another one. No. But yeah, like, stay engaged. Think about what needs to be done. Step in. Step up.
Yep.
Step up. And stay involved. That's, I suppose, what I would do. Yeah.
So while there are good things with sort of being involved and sort of trying to keep yourself involved in the family rituals, what are some challenges that you have faced when going through the practice of trying to be involved with the practices, with the habits?
So it's some challenges you might face are, again, you have to be mindful of the times and the values of those around you. It might not be the most optimal to have a sacrificial lamb slaughtered each year, and that's cool if you do, right? But some people might be a bit queasy with the lamb's blood on the doorframe. So think about those things. Think about your traditions. Think about the people around you and whether or not they're in line with their values. And just be considerate of that fact that as times change, again, so do values, so do traditions. We need to adapt with it. You need to make sure that they're in line with what you believe. So, yeah, that's one challenge I would.
Yeah. No, I think especially when it comes to, like, you're talking about Passover and things like that, there are vegans, could be vegans in the family who just don't completely agree with that. And there could be like, that could cause a whole lot of like other people's traditions sort of clash with the tradition that's been passed down by family.
Yeah, again, we're not here to make value judgments on whether or not certain traditions are out of touch or anything now.
No.
But you just need to reflect amongst yourselves and your own family and ask, well, what's important to us? Okay? And if that's important, cool.
Yeah.
If you feel like you need to keep that up, do it. But just ask. Think about it.
Yeah. I think family is definitely important in that aspect as well. Like some people, for example, might not have time to sort of constantly be there for 3 days for certain rituals, for certain traditions to sort of take place, or have the whole weekend to celebrate Christmas or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
That sort of changes over time. Like you could turn up for one day and that's the only day that you are available, because other people do have everyday life to sort of maintain as well.
For sure, yeah. You're totally right. Yeah.
Okay, so now we're into the open mic section of the show. And as you know, that gives you a chance to talk about anything that you are wanting to share with the audience. There's too many topics that is possibly flying through your head at the moment. But what's one thing that you would love to share with the Family Science podcast audience?
All right. I share with the Family Science podcast. Support your childcare workers. Support the people that are looking after your kids when you can't. They are in desperate need of your help. And they work long hours and they work very hard and they're deadlifting babies all day long. Their backs are sore. And, you know, I think we should take some time out to think about them and support them in whatever ways we can. So I saw a petition recently advocating for higher wages for childcare workers. Maybe I think it was raising the minimum wage. Sign it. You go out and find it. Sign that petition and hug a childcare worker today. Maybe not today, but when you get the chance, and maybe if they're comfortable with it.
Yeah, show appreciation.
Yeah.
Yeah, in any way, whether it's physical or not physical, appreciation.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, I think that's a really good way of ending it, because I think we've spoken about this so many times off camera as well, with all the different ways that childcare workers are sort of being treated as well. So yeah, I think it's really important to sort of show how much you appreciate, especially when you're saying they don't, they look after kids when the parents can't, or parents. I mean, parents are also working, so that's amazing. But there's also that availability of childcare workers to sort of be there for kids and give that support when a parent is unable to at that moment.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, you're totally right. And I think, yeah, we just should take some time out to think about them.
Yeah, exactly. They go through a lot as well.
Yeah, they're understaffed.
Biting children.
I have been bitten too many times to count, but I've got the scars to tell.
Yeah, you got battle wounds.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, they bit me in the throat.
All right, so thank you so much, Aidyn, for joining me on the show.
Thank you very much, Dina, for having me.
And have fun editing this as well.
Oh, you know I will. I love looking at myself.
Yeah, exactly. The narcissist in you is going to crave this.
Ding.
All right, I'll see you guys in the next episode, and I hope you enjoyed this one. You've been listening to Altogether, the Family Science Insights podcast, produced by Family Science Labs, a division of LMSL, the Life Management Science Labs. More episodes are available from 10 life management perspectives and can be found by searching LMSL on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and other podcasting apps available on your smartphone. If you enjoyed this episode, please rate, share, and subscribe to our channel so that other people can find it and we can continue to provide quality content. More of our work can be found on our website at fa.lmsl.net, where you can join our movement. I'm Dina Sargeant, and thanks for tuning in.